Hello, everybody. Getting started a little later than planned here because turns out my drawing software, which is Krita Paint, does not like to be recorded in Windows. Um, but yeah, today I'm just going to be doodling some shapes for a while, talk about stuff that comes to mind. I simply want to be working on making my art better because I am someone who was very much on the sort of engineering, sciencey math end of things when I was much younger, and I never really learned to do art the way I would like to. It didn't make sense to me. I know there is a lot of there's a lot of aspects of it that have to do with some more like mathematical construction and the like, but none of that ever really managed to click with me. The people that I had in my life to teach me that were not interested in that side of things. And I also did not have great spatial reasoning to boot. So, while art has always been something that I have wanted to get good at, or at least get passable at, so that I can make things that don't I would like to be able to take the things that are in my mind and make them in a way that I can accept them on the page. I turn to pixel art for a lot of that as a sort of shorthand that allows me to place things um, kind of correctly. I don't have to worry about making these little lines and whatnot, and if they're going to come out all right. Because I can just place the pixel exactly where it's supposed to be. But not all art is going to look the way I want if I do it that way. And I missed out on a lot of the fundamentals by kind of using it to cheat that way. So, time to go back to fundamentals, like being able to draw a circle, being able to make it almost sort of look like a sphere. So, just going to be kind of working away at that. Actually, how is my stroke? I like that. Because I have been watching a couple of videos sent to me by a friend who is a lot better at art than I am. And one of those was talking about trying to make sure that your strokes aren't sort of start one place, move with the same width, and pick up at the other end, which is kind of what these circles are. Because when they don't meet up perfectly, it's kind of glaring. Whereas if you do these nice sort of small, large, small strokes, hmm, kind of losing it that way. Something a bit more like that, I think. It's a lot flowier, so your brain is a lot more accepting of those transitions. At least that seems to be the theory. Hmm. You know what? Having trouble with circles? Let's do a couple of squares. Whoop. This is where you just need to channel Bob Ross, I'm guessing. Everything's just happy little accidents. Yeah, so like those are kind of aggressive and thick, not very nice and light and sketchy. Don't have to be working on cubes right now. Let's just squares feel relatively easy. As I said, 3D space is still kind of an issue for me. It's working on a robotics team in high school, despite ending up on sort of working on some of the more engineering aspects of things. Um, I was really terrible at figuring out how all of the parts of the robot are supposed to fit together, um, which is kind of important, especially when you're working on actually machining some of those bits and bobs. Probably part of why I ended up working more on the social media and such end of things, believe it or not, because I know I come across as such a charming persona while I'm staring at these cubes. But yeah, I just want to make some shapes, get comfortable making shapes, because everything can be represented in the basic shapes. And then on top of that, you can build anatomy and other sort of more form flowy stuff. And make it look nice and fancy. Or so I hear. Hmm. Still have a lot of trouble drawing um, diagonals with my drawing tablet. There we go. Just make some nice little squares, even if sometimes the squares aren't all that straight. Now, one of the things that I do like about cubes that I have finally managed to get through my head is that it's kind of dealing with like conic sections and whatnot. A cube is actually just a hexagon we put lines on the inside of. It's like if I take those away, those inner lines, oop, I guess a bigger eraser would be helpful. Oh, but now I'm going to mess up my lovely pen size. All right, all nice and terribly messy. But yeah, so, woo, it's around 24. Sure. Yeah, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because if you take a slice through the diagonal of a cube, that's what it's going to look like. I know there's some fun mathematical proof about um, how the probabilities of rolling multiple dice work based on that geometric property. Not one I've ever managed to wrap my head around, though. Well, triangles are just 3 lines and therefore easier, right? Boop. Oop. It's a little pointy. A little gnome man, I suppose. You can see, very simplistic and rudimentary. Okay, that one actually felt a little better. Not quite sure what I did that made it feel better, but it did. Because when I'm doing these are basically, I can draw the back half of them. These are all just ellipses. It's, I guess, just completing one. Ooh. So you make a hemisphere. Well, that's not. Okay, that's doable. So yeah, now we've got a bisected sphere, and we can, I don't know, make it some sort of citrus fruit. Or me after only getting 2 hours of sleep with some very lovely bloodshot eyes, I suppose. I have not done any sort of anatomy work because I'm still trying to just get comfortable with making shapes on a page. Sierpinski triangle? No. Guess that's a triforce. When I move slowly, I actually seem to kind of be worse at that. And my strokes don't look as good. Whew. Start getting awful sloppy. Okay. Kind of like that, working from the imaginary meeting point, rather than doing the two sides first and connecting them. That one's not as good because mechanically, that's part of the thing, right? Like, you don't draw a circle that direction most of the time because mechanically your wrist doesn't work as well in that direction, I think is what's happening. I know some people do draw them in that direction, so it might be just a technique thing. Don't know if it's good to be erasing the ones I don't like. Like, do I leave them all as examples? I've got infinite space. This kind of habit. To actually make the things meet up and not get the little hair swoosh. A long one. Hmm. The product of all of my work. Okay. Let me sort of draw it facing that way. What about overlapping things a little bit? A masterclass in tracing, if I do say so myself. Like, just trying to replicate that. Not very finger-like. Too pointy, but can almost see it a bit more. What if we start with this one? Then we've got this overlapping segment. And then it works its way down. Don't know how those little wrinkle lines work. Nope, that looks silly. I think we just leave it there where it's sort of folding over. No. Well, hey, that's better than I've done fingers before, I suppose. Thinking of them as the little shapes. Really shouldn't be doing it all one line. How about an arm? Got shoulder, elbow, forearm. So, oh, see, there I'm doing the strokes that I'm not supposed to be doing. Then the little hand. Which could have fingers, but let's say let do that as a block. Probably getting ahead of myself, but I guess trying to apply it to specific things is sort of nice. I think that actually works well, but it needs to be longer. Oh, thank you. Far ahead of where I think I should be, but messing around with it, making mistakes out of your depth sometimes, I suppose. Thank you. Do, do, do. It's funny, I like working with the like very angular shapes a lot more, but when I'm trying to actually construct stuff, I keep returning to the circles, so I think of things more rounded. Don't know why. Might just be because most things are not linear in nature. What are things that are triangles? I guess a very stylized, like broad man shoulders. Yikes. No, that's very disproportionate as well. So we do that. Attach there. We're not dealing with any sort of sloping. Hmm. Oh, okay. So, doing a cylinder rather than just a circle. Ooh, my gosh, it's almost like you know a lot of things about art. Because that looks significantly better just by doing that. So I guess a torso is even that stylized is not just that. Well, thank you for dropping in. Appreciated. And it's just me trying to do something, and hopefully people can enjoy seeing someone pretty much at the very start. Hmm, yes. I like how that worked with the arms. Absolutely. I would love that much. Okay. So obviously very, very goofy torso, but there is some amount of posing there. Can I control the direction he's looking? Oh, okay. So by doing that, that helps, really helps figure out that bit. And what if we try some other lines? Oh, now he just sort of looks like a basketball. But okay, that's good to know. Some slight JRPG protagonist here, I suppose. Hmm. So cylinders. I guess a lot of things are cylinders. Trying to think about, pardon. Like if I was making a like posable mannequin, I suppose a lot of those would be cylindrical sections. That is a lot more sensical than uh, sort of a elliptical pill shape. Definitely not the center lines there. Hmm. Okay, let's try rotating. Can we control the rotation of a square? Well, right then and there, that wasn't even fully upright. Too bold of strokes. Allow yourself the sloppiness, Johann. Sloppy. Still not very. Sort of. Okay. Not with a great deal of accuracy, but now what if cube? Oh, interesting. Is that first line too short or too long or the other one too short? Hmm. Ooh. Perspective is something I need to mess around with and get comfortable with too, I suppose, but probably not today. Hmm. Tricky, tricky. I don't like to see whether or not those lines are the same length. I like to angle that and forget how long it is, it seems. Okay. Now a slightly off-kilter cube. Okay. Kinda, sorta. I do like how magical it feels to conjure a 3D shape out of a few pen strokes, even if it's not the most beautiful one that's ever existed. Okay, that actually kind of works. I think that's the stroke type that we were talking about. And then to rotate it more forward, okay, so I can rotate it about, so it's got that axis going on. I can rotate it about that. So how do I rotate it about the other axis? Well, here. Okay, it's my lovely little meat cube on a skewer. So now, I guess let's draw the cube first and then draw the skewer. Don't like that the undo button on my tablet pen also is the click and drag button, but I messed around with it and could not figure out how to separate them, unfortunately. Okay, so that line needs to not go in. Confident without going over. Okay. So, how do we rotate it forwards on that axis? I guess that face becomes shorter. So that moves down. So that one, so that's the back of the cube now. Hmm. So this will come up the back. No. Ooh, how does this connect? Hmm. This is my terrible spatial reasoning coming into play. Do I have a cube near me? I've got some cube-shaped gum. I'm sure this is going to be very entertaining for stream watchers. You get to hear noises as I click open and closed some gum and see nothing move on the screen as I stare at a piece of gum. So rotating it that way was just angle. This, we're actually squeezing how the faces look. So first off, since I'm not actually rotating it, ooh, that's part of my issue, is I'm trying to rotate, I'm thinking of it rotating dead on, but it is an isometric thing. I think that's the right word, because I'm looking at a cube, not simply just a square, which would be the proper cross section if it was straight on. So, not only is it getting shorter as a square, but the angle increases, I think? The angle of attack almost? Yeah, since I'm not looking at it straight on, gets to be a sort of sharper thing. Hmm. I'm currently holding up a piece of gum to the cube that I've made. Now I'm rotating it, and we'll see if I can replicate it. Hmm. So this is along the right way, but that, yeah, needs to be a lot more. Now I'm tempted to chew this piece of gum, which would make for great audio, I imagine. So I guess I want to be thinking about that top shape more, the top face. So this is number one, that's number two. One, one, two. So I'm making two, and now one. It's gonna be more like that. Yes. Okay. So yeah, it becomes a much, that angle becomes much different because it's rotating forward, and that angle becomes a lot closer to straight up and down because we're looking at the hexagon, and so to rotate it this away, we make that shorter, and so these consequently seem longer, I think? Nope, that's the wrong way to think of it. Hmm. Well, so I guess, first of all, those lines are more offset when I'm doing it this way. And then it swaps? So now all of a sudden, so it goes from being straight up and down to oh, okay, that actually I can see how that tilts. Ooh, okay. So then the ultimate tilt is now kind of inverting it. So that's rocked a little forward. So I want this line to be straight up. So this is 1, 2, 3. This is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. Then 1 is gone. There's 2, and there's 3. Right? Don't. Yeah, I think so. Wow, that's way harder for me to understand and visualize. Hmm. So let's do a few more. I don't know. So which axis is which? So we'll call that X. We've got the Z axis, and then the Y axis. Oh, huh. That's a cube. Of course it's a cube. That's why cubes are a really great way of thinking about this, isn't it? You can get the illusion of a cube with just the corner there. Okay, so nope, okay. Let's zoom in. Zoom, zoom. So the sides are a parallelogram. Yeah, okay. So I guess I shouldn't be thinking of the cubes as squares when I'm drawing them. It's almost parallelograms in rhombi. So 1, 2. Can I draw it 2 in perspective? It's gonna get squeezier. So 2, and then rotated up. Rotating it up will make it shorter. No, that's just smaller. Johann you dink. I guess that's the ultimate form, is that you basically can't tell. Hmm. That's a lot, I guess. So 1, 2, 3. So now 2. parallelogram is simply mm, less of a flat parallelogram. Okay, that first line was a bit much, but that is rotated forward. So then can we make it even more? Let's even more aggressive. Is it easier to do the other edge first? Sure. It's kind of smoothed out. But okay. Okay. You do a little dice rolling animation. Not with this level of how my lines are being drawn, but okay. So y-axis rotation, check. About the y-axis. Same with the x-axis. So z-axis is basically going to be the same thing, yes? As the y-axis. So we start with our cube. Oh man, this is reminding me of my back in elementary school, our math textbooks were not comfortable using the word die because it might imply um, gambling, things like that, casinos, etc. So, obviously, an editor made the decision at some point to remove all instances of the word die from all of the like little probability things. However, the way that they went about this was to replace all instances of the word die, and I have to assume it was literally a find and replace, with the phrase number cube, resulting in wonderful math problems talking about rolling two 8-sided number cubes, which it took far longer than I would have expected to explain to my teacher why I found that amusing, but it did eventually get across. So I'm dealing with plenty of number cubes today. So I guess the next rotation to it would be to basically just draw this. So we're still looking at the top, but we don't see the side anymore. And then we've got the other side. We get to see number 4 for once. Wow, that's actually, I don't know if I've drawn a cube facing this way. That is also triggering new muscle memory, or triggering new things. Triggering my muscles to do new things, so it's feeling weird. Okay. So The z-axis actually feels more similar to the x-axis. Oh, Doi, of course they're all the same. They're all doing the same principle. I'm just having a hell of a time thinking about it rotating forward. But yeah, so it's you're slowly getting rid of a side, and it's just a matter of are you looking at it straight on with a square? I guess, technically speaking, this is an eye level cube because it's got no depth to it that you can see. And then this is the corner of a cube at eye level. If you can't see above it or to the sides and whatnot. Even then, I'm still doing a little bit of shading to give it some more depth. Hmm. But yeah, it looks a lot more cube-like when you do have it slightly offset into something isometric. Which is, I suppose, why we typically work in those kinds of views. Hmm. All right. Can we draw a cone? Since I did mention conic sections earlier, it's basically a triangle on a circle, right? Hmm. Having flashbacks to the one book of Witch Hat Adelaide I've read. Thinking of Chifrey? Don't actually know how to pronounce. Cute little wizard man. The traditionally pointy hat. So if we do that, we are looking at the cylinder from above and down. I guess, again, a flat cylinder is just going to be a triangle. And then if we draw in this line, suddenly we're looking at the bottom because we actually see the full circular base. Okay. Spheres are tough because I guess any way you cut a circle, or any way that you cut a sphere, it's a circle from any angle. So, drawing the lines is almost disingenuous. So I guess a lot of that's probably going to be shading work to get across the subtle gradations, I imagine. Just draw the same ellipse over and over again. Apparently moving slightly each time. So you can only do that on one side because otherwise it's an impossible shape. Like, that is not how to draw a cylinder. Because if you're seeing the one face, the other face has to be going away from you. A cylinder in profile is just a rectangle. I feel like any mathematician is going, yes, yes, Johann, this is simply how it works. Did it take you this long to realize? And the answer is kind of, yes. Okay. And that is okay. Hmm. Wow. Yeah. Interesting. I feel like I'm learning a lot, but still have very shaky ability to execute. I don't have much consistency nor confidence. So, what about just drawing straight lines? Ooh. I feel like I was able to get most of the other angles parallel, but this one I'm having a lot more shakiness with. So, sort of downstrokes. I guess a lateral downstroke. Hmm. Kind of a pyramid. Bow tie. Hmm. Is that a leg? I don't know. It's not that curvily, it isn't. But I can see how those are all composed of cylinders, right? Because it's a, wow, not a great cylinder there, Johann. Then this foot, I guess I'm doing more of a rectangular prism. Oh, that does actually almost look leg-like to me. Interesting. Hmm. Well, trying to think here because I am honestly dragging a little bit. I think 2 hours might have been ambitious for just sort of freeform drawing without much direction. So, is there a way that I can give it a little bit of direction? I think I will try pulling up. Let's see if I can replicate something that's around me. What to draw, what to draw, or what to attempt to model. How about my little book o' passwords and whatnot? It is essentially a rectangular prism. As I would assume most books are. I think that was far too tall. I'm probably too close to other things. Sorry. Make those about the same length. So that is a cube, but it then is slightly recessed, so it's basically two rectangular prisms, one inside of the other. Oh, it is hard to draw a line parallel on that angle for me. Okay. That does not look great, but if we erase this line, that might help a little. But not particularly. I suppose part of the issue is I can't draw it up to that line because then it is flush and it is not in fact actually flush. So if I draw it away from the binding, oh, and I suppose it wouldn't go all the way to the end either, now would it? For the same reason. Then we would need to get rid of bits of that line. So, okay. Not lovely, but working some stuff out. Got the cover. Got that. suppose we don't want it to go all that much further out, because then it looks, it's not perspective, it's a feature of the object. I suppose we also don't want that line there, we want it slightly in. And I think we can do it top to bottom since that is where things connect, right? So then it needs to be slightly offset from the corner of that prism to be smaller. Okay, not the crispest of lines, but I think conceptually that may be the best I've ever drawn a book. The bottom doesn't look quite right. The top, that actually looks almost correct. We can, draw the little ribbon. Which goes, around the book. But that's confusing what I'm trying to figure out right now, I think. So, why does this not look right? This doesn't look right. Oh, because it needs to back off from the... Okay, that A cannot go to the exact bottom. There needs to be some amount of a rim. Okay. So this... Ooh. So maybe it is on the corner. It's just a little bit shorter, essentially, because we're not seeing the top of it. Is that what's happening? Hmm. Hmm. Would it be easier to draw the smaller and then the bigger on top? I really need to figure out how to get my lines parallel. Sure, we can just fake it like that. So then a bigger prism on all sides, but it also needs to be parallel for the sake of this exercise. Okay. So, oh, so this, oh, that, because if it's further on this side, it's somehow twisted over there, so it actually it should be closer to, oh no, we want to keep that. So simply start over, I guess. too long there, but that's what erasers are for. Okay, so we're just looking at this a little flatter than last time. So that is the outer bits that we're worried about. I guess I should actually erase these corner lines, because they are not a part, and they are not a real part. So now we want something. We can draw it touching. Just slightly away from the inside. Oh, now that right there is a book. Okay. Hmm. Can I easily rotate this somehow? Unfortunately, this is not a literal drawing tablet. Otherwise, I could be. Otherwise, I could actually, twist around like you do on a phone, two fingers. Actually, if I've twisted my physical tablet, trying to see how that's deflecting my stroke. That's still a down and to the right, so. Oh, this is getting into weird linear transformations. No, okay, so. Up and down. And now I want it to be parallel with the book. And then I just have to trust and not look at the screen. Oh, that is really hard to do. Oh, wow. I've read studies about people doing like mirror glasses. Um, and I imagine it's a somewhat similar experience of trying to retrain your brain on what's going on. Those are definitely not really foreshortened correctly, but that seems book-like, I think. Yeah, I keep trying. Now I'm trying to turn the tablet like it's paper. I don't like those bottom page lines. Okay. I think that is a serviceable book. So a book is just two rectangular prisms, one inside of the other. which makes sense since if you take off the cover, you're left with a rectangular prism of paper. Okay. Neat. Hmm. Well, admittedly, I think I'm running against a bit of a block where I am not as willing to try stuff. That was kind of forcing it. So I think I'm going to wrap up a bit early because I don't want to overdo it. But I think I got some good stuff figured out here, and I hope that if there's anyone watching who is trying to figure out art themselves, watching someone else struggle going through the process is helpful to you. So, thank you to everyone who wanted to pop in. I appreciate it much, and I hope that you have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.